Says, I said to Oz, look, I'm going to get a voice impersonator to do the singing. Unless you sing. He says, oh, not really, I don't sing really. He said, oh, I'll give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm like, what goes through your head?
I just remember that day they said, we just want to do a costume test of the pink suit and do some hair tests. And then Baz, I showed up and I thought I was just going to go to a fitting and because this was so early on. And then you said, you know, we got some cameras, let's set them up and why don't you just sit on the stage and just sing something? So that was that. Yeah. That was
amazing. That is all Austin. The first of the earlier Elvis is all Austin singing in this film.
Well, yeah, actually, Lisa Marie reminded me the other day we saw Priscilla last night. And Lisa Marie reminded me, I mean, when she first saw the film, the whole Presley family was quite, every time I had to show up, because they didn't really counsel on the movie, and I was in contact with them during the pandemic and all that, so that was all very emotional. But she said something so funny, she said, you know, I was so embarrassed to admit this, but you know, I was so emotional the first time I saw the movie. I thought Dad sang the first half of it. You know, and I didn't realize it was Austin, because I was thinking, how did they make Dad's voice sound so clear and modern, you know? So she thought it was her father.
Pretty amazing. I was geeking out last night. I went to a reception and Priscilla Presley was there. And she is your #1 fan on this movie. She is so supportive, and that's not easy. Gail, were you nervous when you first showed this to the Presley family?
Yes. I will tell you that Baz was on a plane, so he was not there when Priscilla and Jerry Schilling came to the screening room at Warner Brothers to see the movie. I was there with a couple of people from Warner Brothers. We greeted them. I was very, very nervous. I mean, my hands were sweaty, and because we had no idea. I mean, it could have gone any way. And they went into the theater, and they went in with a female security guard who closed the door, and was the two of them with the female security guard. And, you know, it's sort of paced. You've seen the movie, it's 2.5 hours, so, you know, it's a lot of pacing. And then, you know, I could hear that we're winding up, and then the female security guard opened the door, and she was crying. And I thought, well, she liked it. That was good. And then they came out, Priscilla and Jerry came out, and they just kept saying, blown away, or blown away. And we stood around for quite a while, and I was texting Baz, he was on the plane, and we just talked, and it was a little bit of incredulousness. I mean, she was really overwhelmed, and then went to the smokehouse to get a drink. I mean, she really was like, I need a drink. And I say that because she's comfortable with me saying it, but she was overwhelmed by it, and I know that she got to speak with Baz very shortly thereafter and communicate with him about how wonderful she felt it was, and then just really came to support us.
You know, she wrote this letter, Gary and I know about it. It's one of my most treasured things, because she said, you have no idea, all my life, people have come up in my face and sort of impersonated my husband. And she said, every woman, she was quite vocal about saying, how's this quite skinny young guy gonna be Elvis, right? And she said, every wink, every move, she said, if my husband were here, he would say, hot damn, you are me. And she said, it was impossible for me to understand, how did Austin know about Elvis's anger? And that always stood with me. And his soul, about the human being. How did he manage to do that? And I couldn't really answer, actually, but it's a really, it's precious. The reaction was precious. From that moment on, they embraced us. They took us to Graceland as a home. We had a barbecue, hanging out in the jungle room, having a cocktail. It was good.
Let me ask you, Austin, how did you manage to do it? I know how you managed to do it. You put so much work into this constantly. Baz touched on it, but you prepared, and you told me you didn't sleep for a year.
Yeah, it was 2 years. Yeah, I'd wake up every day at 3 in the morning and my heart would just be pounding. It felt like this immeasurable weight that I felt on my shoulders. And you know, the process, it's so hard to sort of try to figure out how we did it. And you know, it felt so mammoth. But it was really having those 2 years to just immerse and just trust that if I learned everything I possibly could and watched everything and listened to every interview that he ever gave and then just started to dissect, you know, that we would somehow through osmosis it would sink in. But the tightrope that I always talk about is that of the meticulous that makes him who he is, you know, all those little ticks, but never getting stuck on the external and it always having to come from his soul, you know. And we had such incredible people around me, you know. My movement coach, Polly Bennett, was just vital in that whole process. We worked together so much, and I mean, we did tap dancing, and she was in my karate lessons, and you know, we would dissect the way that he ate food, or you know, you kind of just break it down into bite-sized pieces, and but yeah, I mean, I remember waking up and just thinking, how does he say that word? And I would just obsess about. I would have to listen to an audio like at 3 in the morning, and that was the only thing that would then allow me to. I wasn't scared when I was on stage, but it was all the lead up to it, you know, where there's just this terror where you feel like you can't possibly ever live up to it, you know.
Well, what makes it so great is it's not an impersonation.
Oh,
We've seen so much of that. This, you really get the essence of it, and when you can, you know, Priscilla Presley or somebody, or Riley, the granddaughter, all of them, say that was him, that's got to be the hugest compliment for you, anybody on this.
It's, you know, Pete, it's like directors know, you know, and for me, coming from an acting teaching background, one of the things that I absolutely know we all do, yes, we create the environment, because having done the 2 years of research, being in Memphis, and having the office at Graceland and all that, I immediately handed over, but write down, I mean, that's a costume test, right, that you're seeing. We never, right down to the crew, who we brought in really early. I mean, Mandy Walker was at the audition process, you know, the editors were at the audition process. I mean, I remember on the day that we finally got the film back, we were shooting the Vegas sequence, and Austin was, as Elvis, walks from backstage. Mandy had the exact lenses built that were done in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. We had cameras inside, you know, the television cameras on the floor. Austin walks around the back, he goes onto the stage, crowd goes up, we shoot the entire concert. Now I've got people, all the crew had to learn the music. Everyone had to be involved. Like, we were a family and a theater company. And you know what? I had this guy come up to me, he's worked for me 30 years, he's a grip, and his name's Brett, and he comes out and he goes, oh, boss, you know, I've done everything. I've done the Star Wars, I've done the Thin Red Line with Terry Malick and everything, but I've never seen anything like that. He said, my hands were shaking. I think I might have shaken the camera. He said, all right, yeah. And like, everyone was involved. I think the 300 people collectively held that movie like a baby in their hands and wouldn't let it go because the pandemic was on, and we knew we had a privilege to make a movie, and no one was going to let that baby fall. You know, it was that kind of passion.
It's just amazing. I wanted to ask each of you real quickly, favorite Elvis movie?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, hands down, Viva Las Vegas.
Ah, okay. Austin, you've watched them all. Which one?
I'll say King Creole.
Ah, okay.
I gotta say King Creole.
And guess what? I asked Priscilla Presley. She said King Creole, and she said that was Elvis's favorite.
I mean, he's really good in that movie.
He's really good. I showed the acting talent, and if only he could have fulfilled that, I think. But this movie is terrific. Thank you for coming out to Contenders and sharing all of this with us today.